Pennsylvania Congressman Scott Perry came to CPAC this year to warn conservative activists about the dangers China poses to American national security. Following his remarks, he spoke to One America's Hines.
Is the president questioning China at this point? It seems to me that was a big issue during his campaign, he was questioning China. A lot of experts did not necessarily agree with that. Talk about, from your perspective, about the president's campaign, his positions on China, and how that may or may not be appropriate for the time we're in.
Well, I think that this is the first president in my lifetime to ever confront China. And we had hoped that China would be a capitalist nation. And the government, our federal government, told people time and time again over years that if we just collaborated with them, if we opened them up to capitalism, they would become a competitive market nation and a free democracy like we have. Unfortunately, over the last 40 years, that has not occurred. But what has occurred is that they've reached relative parity from an economic standpoint and from a military standpoint, and they want to go much further. Finally, we have a president that's willing to confront that. It's not going to be easy, but it absolutely has to be done. He has taken the first steps, but we have to get the rest of the American people to understand what is at stake here, because much more needs to be done. I think this president's willing to do it. We need a Congress that will help him, and we need the backing of the American people to disengage from China or have China change their ways. But we cannot live together with a Communist Party that wants to overtake and be the dominant force on the planet, including in America.
You mentioned the coronavirus, and you don't necessarily aren't an expert in that, but it seems like maybe the coronavirus has brought home to the American people, and perhaps Europeans too, that there are some dangers inherent in a black box type government, a black box type society. So maybe could this persuade maybe Americans, Europeans, others to be more skeptical of China going forward?
Well, this is certainly a wake-up call, whether it's the black box of China and the information, or the lack of information, or the credibility of information, which should stun and concern every American. But it's also the supply chains, whether it's paper plates or 90% of the drugs that America uses. When we need them, if China is in peril, as they are with the coronavirus right now, China's going to take care of themselves first, and we're going to be left wanting. And so these are strategic things that we need to consider for our national security. And maybe it's going to cost us 2 cents more for an antibiotic pill, but if it allows us to be independent of China's production, that's probably a better thing. And this is a wake-up call to all of that, to every single American.
One more question.
Yes, sir.
Offer a prediction about how President Trump is going to do in Pennsylvania.
Well, Pennsylvania is going to be a battleground state, and I would say this. I'm not very good at these political predictions, but who his opponent will be.
I beg to differ.
Who his opponent will be a very strong indicator of how Pennsylvania goes. Democrats outnumber Republicans in Pennsylvania by a large degree, but that's on a party affiliation. Most people in Pennsylvania, just because of the makeup of the state, the history of the state, are still center-right. They're conservatives. They might be registered Democrats, but depending on how far left the Democrat Party goes with their nominee is going to influence how well President Trump does. Now, he's still going to have to fight for it. It's still going to be not the easiest state. It's still a critical state, but depending on who they pick, it might make it easier for President Trump.
Congressman Scott Perry, thank you for talking One American News.
Thank you, sir. Great to see you.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One American News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One American News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.